Beloved, please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts together be pleasing in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Where to begin? Today's gospel reading is the kind of passage that is difficult to enter into if you've ever been in proximity to someone who is suffering or doesn't experience relief, or worse still, dies. Jesus, the magician, is one portrayal that can be a stumbling block for those who long for respite and healing, and yet, despite pleas and prayer, find no solace. So then we mortals grasp for explanations. And Pastor Debbie Thomas puts it this way. And so we theorize, theologize, and spiritualize. God is using this sickness to build your character. He's preparing you for something great. Satan is testing you. Stay strong. You need to have more faith. Maybe there's a secret sin in your life. Have you tried confession? She then goes on further to say that besides being insensitive and hurtful, these claims and admonitions encourage us to assume that health, wholeness, and comfort are the norms we should expect in this life. Everything else, by accounting physical pain, emotional pain, chronic illness, and ultimately death, is an aberration. So no wonder people flock to churches that promise prosperity, healing, and happiness Sunday after Sunday. Why not grab a hold of magic if it's out there to claim? Why not demand glitter and spectacle? So it is with this in mind that it seems to me that two questions loom large necessarily. First, what meaning could this passage hold for us today? And second, and relatedly, how do we enter into it and make it relevant? I'll begin by drawing a distinction between curing a disease and healing an illness. Because what I want to call us to today is something far more powerful than the allure of what I call holy hocus pocus. New Testament scholar John Dominic Crossan helped me to understand why this distinction matters. And in his book, Jesus, a Revolutionary Biography, he writes, medical anthropology and comparative ethnomedicine has proposed a basic distinction between curing a disease and healing an illness. Patients suffer illnesses. Physicians diagnose and treat diseases. A disease, to put it bluntly, is between me, my doctor, and a bug. Something is wrong with my body, and I take it to a doctor to be fixed. But what is lacking in the picture is not just the psychological, but much more important, the entire social dimension of the phenomena. How have I been trained to think of my body, modern medicine, and doctors? How does my dysfunction involve my family, my job, or in some cases, wider and wider levels of society? For Crossan, the cure is the gold standard, but the platinum standard is healing. Because, and this is profoundly important, in the absence of cure, we can still heal the illness by refusing to ostracize those who have it, by empathizing with their anguish, and by enveloping their sufferings with both respect and love. What he is pointing to is that Jesus's power was that he was a healer, embracing those who were outside the societal boundaries of cleanliness and declaring them ritually clean. So, thus, the real miracle was not the change in the physical world as much as it was a change in the social world. And it is the social world that dictates, in any case, how we see, use and explain the physical world. So ultimately, this far more modest understanding of the miraculous hints at something far more, ironically, miraculous. That we too are capable of miracles. And lest you bristle and balk at that suggestion, I want to call your attention to John 14:12, where he says, very truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these because I am going to God. Hope Central, you are imbued with an ever evolving understanding of how socially constructed categories of race, gender, class, and ability have the capacity to imprison our human family in a multiplicity of ways. Our modern day demons, if you will. Many of you have shared how being labeled as someone from a less socially desirable identity has impacted your emotional, physical, and spiritual well being. And now, because we live in a world awash with data, we are beginning to quantify the very material impacts of systems of oppression. But an ever evolving understanding of oppression is only part of the story. You are also taking action. And because you are, I believe that you are the miracle workers. I know you to be miracle workers. I feel you to be miracle workers because, for example, the work of inclusion for all manners of gender expression is healing because it affirms the humanity of those who don't fit tidily into binaries and embraces a richer understanding of gender itself. You are casting out gender fundamentalism. The work of understanding the lived experiences of those who are differently able challenges us to be mindful of the various ways we miss the mark of accessibility. The work of inclusion means honoring those differently abled and committing to accessibility in its myriad of expressions. So you are casting out ableism. And of course, I feel that I would be remiss if I didn't speak of our congregation's racial equity work over the past many years that I have been a covenant partner. Work that has most recently produced reparations for Black folks who are descendants of enslaved people. This is part of our work of creative callings with the BU School of Theology. This milestone may not be, and it wasn't our be all and end all effort, but it did mark a significant move from talk to walk. So much so that when I go out into the world and speak of reparations, the work that is happening here, I feel that I am now, in effect, proclaiming a healing. I am affirming that you have acknowledged my humanity and the humanity of my ancestors, and that you are committed to my ongoing liberation, and that you have renounced the demonic, socially constructed category of race that was invented to serve the purposes of enslavement and exploitation.
Amen.
Beloved, this healing is a portal to grace. And I know that this has required proximity. Reparations can and should take many forms. And as much as I am a fan of structural work, I realize the necessity of the nearness of you. The power of the act was not in its amount or whether it fit neatly into an orthodox definition of reparations. Rather, the power was that it happened in my midst with people I know and love. It was and it is scarily intimate. And for someone with admittedly emotionally anorexic tendencies, I need the intimacy even as I fear it. Otherwise, I can distance myself from the gesture, making it academic and empty and hollow. The modest act of reparations here was an incarnation of God's unconditional love, not in the abstract, in the concrete. Love without strings, repair without conditions, just because I breathe. The result? A softening and opening of my spiritual arteries, a quieting of the satanic voices of internalized racism, and an unapologetic, unrepentant embrace of my blackness through a full-throated exorcism of white supremacy that you, Hope Central, have conducted. What I know is that though I will certainly die, I live now, and I live and I will live more fully because I am healing. Repair has been the soul food that I have longed for. Beloved, like Jesus and his disciples before us, we have a purpose: to cast out the demonic, the effects of racism, sexism, ableism, classism in our congregation, in our commonwealth, in our nation, in our world. So let us be about this holy work. For miracles are not only possible, but inevitable if we do the work that is ours to do. Amen.
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 Amen.